Hey, this is Donnie, and I wanted to go over Dr. Hook's Guide to Designing a Study. Um, so this one's pretty straightforward, but um, after you've conducted a systematic literature review, you're ready to start designing a study for your either pre-dissertation or master's thesis. Um, so the whole point of doing a systematic review was for you to get a more specific sense of the literature and start developing expertise in a particular area. So, as you were reading through studies, you probably had ideas or questions or, um, yeah, things you were wondering about or disagreed with. So, writing those ideas down is usually a pretty good place to start in terms of thinking about a study. um, Josh suggests not being overly ambitious. So, particularly if you're in a doctoral program, um, if you try to do a study that's overly ambitious, you may not finish in a timely manner. And it can also be challenging to write up the paper if you don't have a clear link to some sort of storyline that's been of interest in prior research. Um, so, I think this is a very practical suggestion. Um, in terms of thinking about what's going to lead to a step forward, oftentimes if you can apply a new and more sophisticated measurement strategy, that's going to lead to potentially um, new findings. So, for example, in the forgiveness field, most people have used cross sectional measures, um, but Mike McCullough has a paper where he argues that forgiveness has been defined as a change in motivations over time, but mostly measured as cross sectional. So, if there were to be a set of studies looking at forgiveness trends over time rather than cross sectionally, we'd have to compare that information to prior findings and see if it was consistent. And most likely, it's not exactly consistent. So that's one example. You could also look at different populations or test competing ideas, competing theories of what would happen in certain situations. Um, Guideline four, you don't have to do this alone. Oftentimes, just sharing an idea with somebody else, they're going to have a different perspective, and those different perspectives can help nuance the idea for formulating a research question. Um, and then guideline five, we always try to think about if there may be, it takes a lot of work to collect data for certain studies. So if we can think of a second or third paper that could come out of a data set just by including a measure or two, then we definitely consider that. Um, and then guideline six, being good at planning studies is all about being strategic. Um, so as you read more and more studies, you'll realize that often there's kind of a systematic progression. Um, so, like, probably the best place to look at this might be JPSP, Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. So most publications there have, upwards of 4 to 10 studies, and the first studies kind of typically establish an effect, and then they begin basically replicating the effect and also ruling out alternate explanations is um, the basic gist. So anyway, yeah, that's just a few pointers, but of all of these, I would say this guideline four is the most important. So just start talking about your ideas with people who, especially people who are excited about research, and there's a synergy of ideas, and you'll even learn from them uh, what it's like to kind of hone and develop an idea.